A bitter row has erupted between Israel and the United States. A top aide to US President Barack Obama has accused the Israeli government of undermining the Middle East peace process. David Axelrod has been reacting to Israel's decision to announce that it's going to expand its settlements in East Jerusalem.
Mr Axelrod said it was insulting that the announcement was made as Vice President Joe Biden arrived in Israel. Mr Cisneros was a senior member of the Clinton administration. He's in Australia as a guest of the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. Mr Cisneros joins us now from Sydney. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I know your specialty is housing, but we'll just turn to this Israeli issue first because that's the significant issue this morning. Now, David Axelrod has described the Israeli move as destructive. In terms of diplomatic language, it doesn't get much tougher than that, does it?
I think I would be careful with that kind of language. It might be a bit strong. It certainly was not helpful, and just as the Vice President arrived for talks in the regions and was reaching out to the Palestinians in some ways, Israel should have been more careful, I think. There's both an issue of timing, the timing of the announcement, as well as the substance, which is very controversial, but it doesn't help to use the kind of language that we're seeing over the weekend. I hope this can quickly be put to bed because we need to get about peace discussions in the Middle East, and there need to be concessions all around and understandings all around, and this kind of incident doesn't help. I hope it settles quickly.
So the Obama administration's response at this stage has been a little over the top and unhelpful as far as you're concerned.
I would say we need to moderate the language. It's not helpful. That would be my sense. It's a very difficult issue, and calmer language would help.
Do you believe the Obama administration has been generally a little too provocative in its dealings with Israel since Barack Obama came to power?
No, I don't think so. I think they've tried the formula that multiple U.S. presidents have utilized over the decades to try to advance peace. This government in Israel, I think, is firmer in its pushback in some ways, but making the announcement at the very time the Vice President is there is at a minimum embarrassing to the United States efforts, but it's the kind of thing that quickly needs to be calmed in order that we can get about the substance of discussions.
Now, just one other issue before we get to housing. What do you think the likelihood is that Barack Obama will actually get to Australia this month?
Oh, I think he'll be in Australia. I think a good deal of the timing revolves around the health care bill. It is the most critical priority that he has, and it has a lot to do with his own political prospects as well as the Democratic Party. So it's priority one, and it needs to be attended to. It'd be difficult to be on the other side of the world away from Washington while this is unfolding. But I am absolutely certain he will be in Australia soon. And I'm very proud of him when he makes a trip to Indonesia, this heartfelt trip to his boyhood place of residence, to include a visit to a heartfelt ally, one of America's strongest allies in the world, and a nation that has not only stood by the United States through thick and thin, but is increasingly playing an important role in its own right in the Pacific. As we go forward with the rise of China and the importance of the Pacific, Australia's role in world affairs will be more important than ever, and its relationship with the United States will be one more of brothers, if you will, as opposed to the kind of one-directional direction that characterized it in the past. I think Australia is going to have a big voice, and a U.S. president is wise to listen to it.
So even if the U.S. healthcare bill doesn't get up, do you believe Barack Obama will come to Australia?
Well, I think the healthcare bill will come up, and I think that it will pass in some measure, perhaps not all of it, not the ideal that everyone has been seeking. But I think over the next month or so, you will see the health care bill, that's my sense, will be passed, and then the President will be free to meet his other commitments.
Now, you impressed a lot of people across the United States with your abilities at getting affordable housing established, I think, in the city of San Antonio. You're obviously passionate about supplying affordable housing. Why is it such an important component of urban planning?
Well, every city, including the great cities of Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, others, need to have a mix of housing types. It's not possible to run the engine of a great urban economy without housing for working people, housing for those who are most in need, as well as rentals, home ownership, nicer homes, higher-priced homes. We've kind of categorized a range of 7 different types of housing that a city needs in order to function. What we find when that balance gets out of whack is that workers have to travel too great a distance. Emergencies occur when workers are required. They can't get into the city because of the congestion and so forth. So it becomes dysfunctional. Housing is one of the critical reasons why cities exist. They exist as places to work. They exist as places to learn. They exist as places to recreate. But most importantly, they're places where people have to live. And we need a range of housing types for a city to function properly.
The Australian Prime Minister has announced a major public housing initiative here. Some communities, though, aren't being given any notice that these public housing developments are going up in their streets. How important is it a mistake not to have local communities on side as these developments go ahead?
Well, it is absolutely critical to have deep consultation and civic participation in order to site housing. Now, there's always a balance because in the United States we call it NIMBY, not in my backyard.
We call it that in Australia too.
and many communities oppose housing because they don't like the density or they don't think they want a certain income of people coming into their neighborhood. So there's a fine balance, but you can never just ride over local objections. I used to say when I was mayor of San Antonio that part of the job was just listening and looking for that sliver of daylight where a compromise can be forged. A compromise on design, a compromise on location, a compromise on size, a compromise on traffic, but we have to keep pressure on the system to do the right thing, which is to produce housing in a balanced way across our cities.
Henry Cisneros, great talking to you this morning, and
Thank you.
Enjoy your stay in Australia.
Thank you very much.